Hello, making a video, and I want to talk about the situation that happened with David Wilcock. We all loved and love David Wilcock. David Wilcock is and was and will always be one of the brightest lights, that I have ever seen, and other people too. One of the brightest, kindest, I'm gonna cry, but it's okay, the most generous, giving, peacemaking, forgiving, giving in all the time, holding the other cheek. Something I don't do for a very good reason. But David Wilcock was the so-called sonnet. That is a specific personality in that was a personality test that I did, and I scored the worst. Battle axe. That's what my score was. So I'm also Sigma INFJ, and Sigma INFJs are battle axes. Okay, so they don't put up with stuff. But David Wilcock was a sonnet, and the sonnet is like the opposite of a battle axe. The sonnet is the person that will always accommodate, will always give and give and give and give and give, and people don't appreciate it. People will just take advantage. The criminals, they will just, the opportunists. So I don't know, there's probably the opportunist in that test too. Somewhere, I forgot now. I only remember these two ones, sonnet and battle axe, but I think the opportunist was among these 8 personality distinctions or personality groups that they created. And it was on OkCupid, I think they had this particular personality test that will help you find your twin flame or twin tower, whatever. So I recommend to definitely not take the opportunist. But David Wilcock was the sonnet. He is and was and will always be the soul of light and love and giving and never-ending forgiveness and holding the other cheek, much more than Jesus Christ. So much more. So he was the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. So I always mix these names up. So because my dog's name is Casey Kasem, because he's the reincarnation of Casey Kasem. So Edgar Cayce was a psychic, also a sonnet, and David Wilcock was the next incarnation of Edgar Cayce. And David Wilcock talked about it, and I had never put my mind into it, but then I thought about it, and I thought, well, that's absolutely true. I can feel it, I can sense it. I can sense sometimes people's reincarnations or their past incarnations, so I can sense my own if I put my mind into it. And sometimes if I just study someone, suddenly it occurs without me even looking for it. So, for example, David Foster Wallace was William Butler Yeats, a poet and writer. So that's very interesting, all of that. Really interesting. So it's very difficult for me to see the sonnets in the world being abused and taken advantage of to such an enormous degree. And of course the opportunists, the criminals, they will do that because they can't take advantage of a Sigma INFJ. They can't take advantage of a battle axe. Okay? A battle axe will also go into reclusion and will wait there behind the door with the gun, with a loaded gun. Come on in. Here's the loaded gun, just in case you didn't know. So that is the Sigma INFJ. So that person is not going to play around. That's a warrior. That's a foot soldier. Okay, that's someone who is not going to let anyone take advantage of them at all. But the sonnets, the Class A personality, very outgoing, but very kind at the same time. So then there are also the opportunists that have Class A, Type A personality. So beware of those, okay? But the sonnet with the Type A personality, those are the ones that end up in TV. Those are the ones that end up being loved by nations for good reason. Those are the ones that also like to be around other people. Those are unfortunately the ones that trust other people way too much. And that is what happened to David Wilcock. And I remember during the Biden administration, towards the end of the Biden administration, I remember during the pandemic, David Wilcock was talking a lot about the hate that was going on, the hate campaigns against Donald Trump, but he did not even dare to speak out the name Donald Trump. He was so afraid. He would word himself like the other person that is being hated. Something like that. He worded himself like that. And I watched several of his presentations, and I liked him instantly. And I thought, what a kind-hearted, generous, amazing person. But what a vulnerable person, I thought. What a sitting duck kind of person that is, I mean, like food for the next opportunist. And I was worried for him. I was actually, for many years, I was very worried for him. I thought, that's not a good situation at all. If I could, I would take all of these people under my wings. I would take all of these people into my sanctuary and protect them. Me, the battle axe, waiting behind the door. For anyone that comes after them, I would protect these people tooth and nail. I absolutely would, if I could. But I can't, because how can you even get to meet someone like that? And I have warned people. It falls under the radar. I've warned different people. I've warned Usha Vance. I'm kind of worried for her life too. So, but then again, I don't know the whole situation. But I'm talking about it in my videos. I'm probably gonna get murdered at some point. I thought I was gonna get murdered on on my birthday, but I didn't. So I don't know whether that's good or bad. So yin and yang. Okay. So, but I'm leaning towards bad to be still here. I mean, unless, of course, you end up in a hospital quadriplegic, then that's obviously much, much worse than just surviving, right? Of course. But being shot dead like this, pang, pang, dead, that's better. Okay, that is, it's a whole lot better than existing. Yeah, that is my personal point of view. That is the battle axe point of view. I love myself. I love my body. I care about myself. I take care of myself. But existence, if you ask me straight out, existence is rough. It is rough. I have mental illness. Why do I have mental illness? Why did David Wilcock also have mental illness and of different types? And I wouldn't be surprised if he had everything I have. Where does that come from? Okay, is this some stigma? No, it's not a stigma. It's a coping mechanism. That's the coping mechanism of a kind-hearted person who copes with severe childhood trauma and with ongoing coping with a world that keeps on traumatizing each other. Okay, so that is what a kind-hearted person does. A kind-hearted person will go inward. The kind-hearted person will try to resolve it, try to work on it, but they are in a state of anxiety and shock and grief. We go into reclusion. We go into hiding. We don't even want to go outside anymore. We'd rather not deal with people anymore. Rather not. I go shopping. I'm friendly. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. So that's about it. So longer conversations, they never end up well. Okay, because I end up saying something that they don't like. So they might like me in the beginning. Maybe they even like me. They see an opportunity to take advantage. Right? That's been going on many times. But I will see through it very soon. Oh boy, they are in danger then. They are really in trouble then. Because I'm going to unload my mind on them. Okay, and they will not like that. That'll be for them as bad as getting slapped. I'm not physically. Mental. I will unload mentally. I will scold them. And I will walk away. And that happens so many times I can't even count it anymore. Karl Lagerfeld was one like me. Very much like me. Battle axe. Sigma INFJ. So Karl Lagerfeld said in a German talk show, he was confronted with it in order to frame him and make him look bad. But he totally picked up on it and he said, yeah, that's who I am. I turn on people. When they betray me, I turn on them. I turn around on the spot and I walk away and I never look back. And that's what he said, and I thought that was so great in that German talk show, particularly in the German talk show, because the German talk show hosts, how can we compare them to, what person can we compare them to here in the United States? Definitely opportunists, and definitely woke, and definitely kind of like Dawn Lemon in that direction. So, and what else? Who else? I don't know. Piers Morgan is already much more guarded and much more observing. And no, he is, Piers Morgan's not one of those. So he guards his business quite a bit, but he doesn't let it go overboard where he's not going to become woke. He doesn't go all the way with this opportunism. So he's not an opportunist. But I mean, like The View, those type of people. That's what every single talk show host in Germany is. Like The View, like the daughter of Dick Cheney and all of these other people. That is 100% how every single talk show host in Germany is. And when Karl Lagerfeld said, "Yeah, spot on, that's who I am," like, oh, you should have seen the facial expression of the talk show host. That they didn't see that coming. They thought he was gonna be evading or ducking away or ashamed or being put on the spot. No, he wasn't. So Karl Lagerfeld was amazing person, awesome. So, and I wished more people would be straightforward like that. That would make the world a better place. It really would. So, but then there are sonnets that really mean well. They're not opportunists, like David Wilcock. But they are sonnets. And they will give in and give in and give in and give in. Someone from the underworld that has been bred and groomed in the underworld as that Corey, I forgot the last name, the Corey guy with his avian ET story, which was completely made up, to lead the public astray. There's a couple of those. Carrie Cassidy, I really strongly believe, is one of those underworld collaborators to lead the public astray. So, and she's probably on some kind of drug also. And the underworld has that type of drug, and so they have a complete grip on her, like a total puppet. That's what the situation looks like. I don't know 100% for sure. I also think Erica Kirk is a total puppet from the underworld, like 100% marionette that dances to the finger movements of the string holders, the underworld repto string holders, like Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci and the Rothschilds and many people that don't even want to be seen by the public. They really stay behind the radar. So there's a lot of people that are already trillionaires. They're not mentioned in any economic magazine because they're not even noticed. They don't want to be noticed with that. They don't want the public to know they have already trillions of dollars, like in one person's bank account, not just family owned, but one person's bank account, trillions of dollars. But bank accounts like in the Swiss Alps and stuff like this is the true Albtraum. Yeah, it is the truth. Okay, so it is already going on, and they are all over the planet. These people, they have their hiding places all over the planet, on the ground and under the ground, in the underworld. I heard now on the internet it goes 200 miles deep into the earth. I mean, it must get really warm at that point, right? If you go 200 miles deep into the earth, it's gonna get hot. I mean, it must be 100 degrees at least. I guess these people, it's a different species, they have adapted to it, so, and then they're just monitoring what happens here on land. And they get resources from the human sheep here on land that they probably have even bred themselves, right? Us human sheep, us workers. We're the sheep of the underworld. We are creating the resources that are then delivered secretly into the underworld shafts. Okay, so they can get any goodie that we create here on land. But they're so adapted now to 150 degrees Fahrenheit that they don't come to the surface. It's going to be way too cold. Even 70 degrees Fahrenheit, they must be shivering then. So no, they're not coming that far up. They stay 200 miles deep in the earth. There are caverns of enormous sizes already created by volcanic activity, and what happens 100 million years ago, those dinosaurs, the bipedal dinosaurs, I guess they evolved, had by then evolved far enough to have, first they had little Kontagan arms on the side like this. They used to be wings, then the feathers fell off, then they were just little arms that were hanging. You've seen dinosaur photos. And there were these emo type of, and emos they're descendants of many of these side species. So a lot of dinosaurs that did not become extinct, so that kept evolving, and so did the ones that developed little by little. The arms gotten a little longer, long enough to do something with it, with 5 fingers just like us, with the thumb like this on the side, so that you can grab and you can actually do things, minute work. Okay, so that's all the evidence, and my intuition all points to that. Okay, this is obvious that this is what happened, because I saw a reptile, so I'm not going to dismiss that anymore as just some kind of delusion or illusion or Fata Morgana or whatever that's called, or hallucination. Okay, Fata Morgana or whatever. Mirage. It's a miracle mirage what I saw in Kenya. Okay, but so now I hear from so many people, and I hear this from all over the world, and I know that people, they tend to create belief cults and all of this, but these kind of reports come from people of all walks of life. They come from people that are not affiliated with a group or a belief system or cult, or they don't even know each other, and they have experienced very similar things. So they have painted them. I read David Icke's book. In the end of the book were drawings from women, and I was shocked. It's kind of scared me, because I have made those type of drawings when I was a child, after I saw that reptile. And so I wanted to dismiss this because it scared me, because then it brought up my own memories and all of that. And then after a while I thought, no, this is actually true. Okay, these beings exist. They have evolved so long, much longer than humans. They had much more time to evolve. They had they had 100 million years longer to evolve already. So at that time, our lineage was the size of a rat, a tree climbing rat. So at most, if not a ground walking rat. So then later on they became tree climbing rats. One fell into a some kind of tar pit in Germany. It crystallized. They called her Ita after the daughter's name, the daughter of the scientist who studied this animal, and that animal was the size of an opossum, and that is directly on our lineage. Okay, and that was 47 million years ago. So now this puts things into perspective. 100 million years, 200 million years ago, there were the ancestors of the reptiles that were also that size. So now that puts things into perspective. So if you're given this approximate timeline comparison, then you can clearly see how much more time the reptiles had to evolve. And just with everything about environmental funneling of certain characteristics, certain advantages, survival advantages, and so on, you can evolve into anything. You can, even from here on, okay, if given a specific environmental pressure or funnel, or whatever, could be artificial breeding, being bred in a specific way in the underground world, particularly. That's what they do with underground women. They breed them in a specific direction. Which direction are they breeding them in? Different ones, but it's all for their advantage, including real hardcore psychopaths, okay, like Thomas Crook, okay, and Erica Kirk. So people that have absolutely no remorse, people that are only interested in praise, in fame, in money. That's all they can think of. They can't think of the other living being. So those are the ones the underworld want to have. Okay, they want to have them as their dirty work foot soldiers. Okay, they want to send them out and deploy them in various ways to assassinate a president or someone who could potentially become a president, like Charlie Kirk, and who is a sonnet, again, another sonnet, another one who is way too trusting. And then that cute red-headed guy, I have to find this video again. I want to put the link under my video. I watched his presentation last night, cute guy with long hair, talked about this in detail and weighed it all off. He didn't go in either direction. He didn't go in this camp or that camp. He just said it, whatever he heard and whatever makes sense. So he laid it all on the table, and I think that's how we should do reporting. That's the way to always report, not put your own bias into it. You can later say, well, I personally believe he was murdered. You have the right to do that, but don't funnel things only in that direction and omit other information. So put it all on the table. Say, yeah, then I heard this, but then it could be, this could have been manipulated, or I heard something else then from the family members, and this or this or this or that. Reports that David Wilcock was suffering from mental illness. But that doesn't mean he committed suicide. It looks it's very obvious, and it is very crystal clear that he loved himself, he loved his life, and he was extremely enthusiastic about his work. Okay, so he did not commit suicide. I'm absolutely 100% certain about this. So, peace and love for all living beings.